Hello, my friends. I'm so glad you can be here with me. I'm going to continue what I was talking about on my first video. Once I came back to God after drowning, I would talk to Him all through the day, and He would talk to me. And one day I was driving home from work, and before me, just as if it appeared before me as if it was a typewriter typing one letter at a time. Work not for me, for I will work through you, for I am God. Another time I was driving home from work and I saw a vision of a man's hands, a woman's hands, and a baby's hands all raised in praise to God. I had never been in a church that raised their hands to God. So the following Sunday, I was going to a new church, and when I walked in the middle of where the preacher preaches, was a giant painting of what I had just seen, the vision I had just seen. My love for the Lord increased each day. Some days I felt my love overflowing for the Lord. I also felt my knowledge of the real Lord increasing each day. God told me as He brought people to me not to speak of Him unless He told me to. He informed me only He knows the heart of man, of each man, and only He knows the right words to say, not I. Each man has his own timing. I think we forget that a lot, that we're all in a different place in society. We're all in a different place in relationships with others, and we're all in a different place with our relationship with God. There is nothing too small that the Lord cannot use for His glory if He wants to. At that time, I had a shirt that had the word Sagittarius on it, which is my horoscope. And I was walking to the bathroom at work, and God told me to go to the second restroom, which was farther away. So I walked over to this bathroom, and I walked in, and this girl walked up to me and started talking about horoscopes because she saw my shirt and told me she was involved in witchcraft. I had heard about this girl, and I thought she was very strange, and I really didn't want her talking to me. I really didn't want to do anything for her or for the Lord to work through me. But later on that day at work, she comes into my work area and she asked if she could come by my house and talk. And sometimes when the Lord wants to, He will answer for me so fast that I don't have time to answer. And I immediately said yes. So that afternoon, she comes over and she comes into my living room and she sits down and she starts crying. She said she had a gun in the car and that she was going to go commit suicide, but instead decided to come over to my house. The Lord took over and started talking to her to calm her down. She kept saying over and over, I don't believe in God, I believe in nothing. She did not at that time say she believed in God, but she did get calm enough to go home and at least go to sleep. Well, she kept coming over to my workplace talking, and the Lord kept talking to her. And I never did like her. I never really wanted her around me. And so one day I was driving home from work, and I was driving through the bank, and I was going to get some cash, and then I was going to go to the grocery store and spend the rest of the money in the bank. Well, as I'm going through the bank, God speaks, and he said, half of the cash you go and you give to this girl. Also, when you go to the store, spend half of that money on food for her. And when I got to the grocery store, I did offer God that morning all of my money, but I really didn't expect him to take me up on it. I wasn't really a joyful giver, especially since it involved this girl. Well, when I got to the grocery store, I told God, well, since you want me to do this, I don't want this girl throwing out the food I buy. Tell me what to buy. Well, he told me to buy canned soup. He didn't tell me which kind of soup. He didn't say chicken noodle, but he just said buy canned soup, buy frozen TV dinners, and buy frozen chicken pot pies. So I did exactly as God had said. I got back in the car, and I wasn't too thrilled because I was going to have to go over to this girl's house. I had never been over to this girl's house, but I had the address. So me and my 2 children drove over there, and I knocked on the door, and she came to the door, and I told her that I had some things for her, but not to think they were for me. That she had been off work for weeks and leave without pay, and she should suffer the consequences. And so I brought in all the groceries, and then I left the money God wanted her to have on the counter, and she kept asking me over and over, well, who is doing this? Who is doing this? And I said, you really don't want to hear. And finally, when I got to the door, I said, it is from the Lord thy God, who loves you very much. And she looked up into the sky, and she said, maybe there really is a God. Well, after that, God didn't have to use me very much. He told me to introduce her to 2 of my friends, my Christian friends, and she ended up becoming a believer of God. And her friend, who was also in witchcraft, also became a child of God's. God is so much bigger than any of us think. His mercy is so great. It's just astounding how much God loves all of us. God told me that he loved the worst person, the prostitute, the drug dealer, the drug addict, the murderer, for they are what they are because they do not have him. He also said that I could be just like them if I did not have God. Hold on just a minute. I've got to look at my notes. When I gave this money to God, I wasn't a joyful giver. But even though I wasn't, God rewarded me several times over financially. I had gotten several checks in the mail. One I definitely did not deserve. I had rented an apartment, and my 2-year-old son had colored all the walls with crayons. I had left that apartment as dirty as I had ever left anything. And 5 months later, after I left that apartment, I got my deposit back. You never get your deposit back. I mean, everybody makes sure you don't get your deposit back. And then after that, I got a couple more financial things in the mail that I wasn't expecting. Well, I started going to the church that I had went to after my drowning. And there was one day, and I got a phone call, and it was a girl I had never met, and she had 2 children, and she said she needed to get to the church to talk to the deacon, but she didn't have any transportation. Would I take her? How she got my phone number, I have no idea. Well, I went and I got this girl and I took her to the church, and there wasn't anybody there. Well, she told me that she had I will continue this in my next video. I hope you're able to come back. I want each and every one of you to know that I appreciate you spending time here listening to me. I want you to have a fantastic day. I want you to be sure and include some fun in your day. I hope to see you next time. Thank you.